Today on the podcast, we have Sue Becker. I just finished my conversation with her, and it is one that you definitely do not want to miss. She is so full of wisdom and grace. She is the founder of Bread Beckers, and she has been a pioneer in helping families return to real bread that is freshly milled bread, the way that it was supposed to be made from the beginning. She has done incredible charity work. She has given all kinds of incredible classes on the benefits of freshly milled bread. And she is revolutionizing the way people look at wheat. You do not want to miss this, especially if you have any health issues, autoimmune issues, if you've been told you are not supposed to consume gluten. Listen to this episode. She shares her stories of people that have shared their testimonies with her. I share some of the benefits that I've experienced eating freshly milled bread. And I am so excited and delighted to introduce you guys to Sue Becker. I am so excited because today I have Sue Becker on the podcast. Sue, you don't know this, but I have been following you now for about a year. I first heard you on Culture Apothecary,
Yes.
and I feel like I'm already going to start crying because you changed my life.
Oh my goodness.
You seriously changed my life because you taught me that I could trust bread again.
Yes. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah, right? And
Yes.
I
Yes.
have been freshly milling flour for almost a year now,
That's
making my
amazing.
own bread. I had a baby in July. So for the last trimester of my pregnancy, I was eating this amazing bread that you turned me on to. And if you would you tell us why you fell in love with freshly milled flour and why it is so different than the flour we see on the shelves in the grocery store?
Oh, yes, I will tell you that. I've always loved studying the human body. In fact, I graduated high school, went off to college, as a pre-med student because I love the body, everything about it, and I wanted to save the world. So got to the University of Georgia and went, I don't really want to be in school that long. But anyway, I'm gonna make this short. But so I ended up in food science, up and coming industry at the time, but it's the study of food processing.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. But all my biochemistry, physiology, that was still the love of my life. And I focused more on microbiology, and I worked for a major food company as a bacteriologist for almost 5 years until I had my first child. So, anyway, but after graduation, I just continued to study, and I kind of came at everything from the standpoint that if something's not working in my body, then I must be missing a nutrient. That was kind of
Mm-hmm.
the biochemistry scientist behind,
Yeah.
behind thought behind it. Kind of simplistic, but I still think it's a very good jumping off place.
Mm-hmm.
So I studied, and I would most of the things in the 70s and 80s was more about supplementation, but I would always read that whole wheat flour was better. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I would try the whole wheat flour from the store. And it was when I'd make bread with it or muffins or pancakes, it was dry and gritty and just really didn't taste very well. So I loved cooking. I grew up cooking. I'm Southern, born and raised, and my mom was a great cook, and I loved cooking. And my husband and I were gardeners. So with my studies, I believed in real food. We were a real food family. We ate food from the garden. We ate meat. We ate real vegetables, real potatoes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the way we lived. And I started making my bread, reading that whole wheat flour was better. I would buy the whole wheat flour from the store, but when I would try to, like I said, make bread with it, it was kind of nasty and gritty. So I would add white flour to make it palatable.
Mm-hmm.
So this was kind of the way I lived. I kind of gave up doing all whole wheat flour until 1991. In 1991, through a publication that I read, it introduced me to the history of white flour. We'll get into that in just a minute. What has been done to our flour by the food companies to make
Mm-hmm.
it sit on the shelf forever. That was very eye-opening to me. And but then a brief discussion of the common diseases that plague America how it was directly related to our consumption of commercially processed food, most importantly, the bread. This publication was centered on the bread. This made absolute scientific sense to me. And as a Christian who studied God's word, it made biblical sense to me. I knew it
Mhm.
was real. But what it introduced me to, it didn't just tell me whole wheat flour is better, whole wheat flour is better. It introduced me to the concept of an in home grain mill to
Mhm.
take the whole grain, which is storable, mill it into flour when I'm ready to use it, and it be freshly milled. Oh my goodness. I was hooked, kind of like you. I'm like,
Totally
I'm
hooked.
doing this.
Totally
And
hooked.
and it was funny. I'm a pretty passionate person. You can probably figure that out. But when I read the information, my first thought was, how did I miss this? How did I not know this with all my
Mm.
studies? How did I miss this? And but the other thing was, I assumed this freshly milled flour was going to taste like the whole wheat flour that I was buying in the store. I
Mm.
didn't realize that it wasn't really what we think it is.
Mhm.
So, but I didn't care. I was like, we're never eating white flour again. If I have to choke this bread down, we're eating it because what I learned was grains are the most nutrient dense food God has given us. And even though we were eating real food, real fruit, real vegetables, homemade everything and eating real, we still had our share of sicknesses.
Mhm.
So, which kind of puzzled me too. So, anyway, after reading this publication, I was sold. I was like, we're never eating white flour again. If we have to choke it down, we're eating it. So my husband, because of my talking and passion, he bought me a grain mill way back in 1991. I look back now, it's been 35 years. 1991, he bought me a grain mill for my birthday. And the mill came, and I was so excited. And I had found some wheat, and I'm like, I'm gonna make some bread, And so I milled some flour, made some bread. No white flour, no white sugar, just made some bread. It was the most delicious bread that I had ever tasted. That's why I love this.
I know.
I
It
may have
tastes
started it.
real and it
Yes, and
tastes like you're nourishing your body with the
yes,
first bite. It's a totally different frequency than
it
a
is.
regular bread.
It
Completely
is.
different.
Even the flour. I mean, when I
Yes.
smell white flour now, even going down the baking aisle, it's chemicals, and this is just fresh, and it's amazing.
It's so,
So,
oh,
yeah,
sorry.
no, no.
Quick segue. My son loves eating the freshly milled flour
Oh my
plain.
goodness,
And
I've
my
heard of kids.
one of my best friends just sent me a photo of her 1.5-year-old eating plain flour that she just freshly milled too.
That's crazy,
They
but it
love the
it
taste.
smells. It just smells so delicious outside of
Hmm.
the bread. So for me, I started because of nutrition.
Hmm.
And sometimes I get too stuck there.
Mm.
This bread is the most delicious bread I'd ever tasted. The bread came out of the oven. I had 5 young children at the time when I started. They loved it. It was not bread that I had to coerce or healthy food that I had to
Hmm.
coerce my children to eat. I laugh and, over the years, I think as adults, we'll do most anything to get healthy, and
Oh,
I did all
yes.
the things, the green drinks, the brewer's
Hmm.
yeast, the this, the that, and my kids are like, yeah, I'm not touching that.
Hmm.
And even in the midst of all of those things, it did none of them, yes, they maybe gave me more energy or whatever, but none of them did what the bread did. The
Mm.
bread was delicious. It was grains are the most nutrient dense food God has given us, and I didn't have to coerce my children to eat it. Might have to make them, eat your broccoli. I didn't care anymore. Just eat your bread. I don't care here. And so,
Yes.
and it was delicious. And so
Uh-huh.
now I say, why do I love this bread? Because it's not only nutritious, it's very delicious. My husband, I laugh at him sometimes. He says, healthy food have if it doesn't taste good, it's not good for you. And he's kind of got a
Mm.
point. If you don't
Hmm.
like something, you're not going to eat it. And
Hmm.
this was healthy food. My whole family loved. We fell in love with it. Then it was health benefits. Oh my goodness. The very first day, I
Hmm.
milled flour, I made bread, we ate bread that night. And I get very blunt. I pooped the next morning. It was like,
Yeah.
what just happened to me?
Uh-huh.
That ended, and I laugh and tell everybody, I know you wanted to know this. I haven't been constipated since 1991, and I had struggled with it all my life. I probably need to come up with a more glamorous way to say it,
But
but
it's true. It's true. The
yes,
fiber content is
is
it It
Yes.
everything about it nourishes your body.
Exactly, exactly. And so this was, and like I said, we were eating real food. We were eating fresh fruits, fresh
Mhm.
vegetables, but I still struggled with bowel issues. And this
Mhm.
was done, and it has been done. Then all these years, 35 years now, and then I began to notice my energy levels. I mean, I had 5 young children. We homeschooled, we did baseball, we did music lessons, we did church, we did all the things,
Mhm.
And I even had 3 children in 3 years. So I had some
That's a
young ones
lot.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And it's a big tax on your body too.
it is, but I had so much energy. It was noticeably different. My
Mhm.
sugar cravings, like I said, we weren't junky eaters, but it was
Yeah.
like I just want something. All of that
Yeah,
went
because you're
away.
tired. Yeah.
Yes, and I was satisfied. My body was getting the carbohydrates it needed, sustained release because of the fiber,
Mhm.
slows digestion. So you get this steady release of those sugars from the carbohydrates that your body uses to make energy, and I just felt full and satisfied.
Mhm.
My dependence on antihistamines in the first month went away. I lived on antihistamines, chronic
My
sinus
husband
congestion.
too.
Yeah, all of that went away. One of my children's warts went away, and I studied and I knew it was the bread. I have a whole
Yeah.
wart testimony. I don't know if we'll get to it, but so, and then I just began to notice over several months, my kids were just, we weren't a sickly lot, but we
Sure.
certainly had our share of ear infections, snotty noses, viruses, and we're a big family. We go to church, we go to places
Mhm.
catching every bug that comes around. Then we all, they're all sick. That ended. And I'm not saying they never got sick, but it was very
They
rare. And
decreased.
if they
Mhm.
did, they got well. And my husband loves for me to tell this. In 25 years, we ended up having 9 children, 7 biological, 2 we adopted. But in the 25 years of raising our children, 2 doctor visits.
That
Did you
is incredible compared to the
hear?
average amount of doctor visits most people
Maybe
experience.
2 in a week,
I mean,
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
unheard of in today's
Yes.
environment, and
And
you
and
credit the bread.
yes, absolutely. I mean, because we were already eating healthy, but
Yeah.
we made this one change. We added real bread made from freshly ground whole grains to what we were already eating. So all the muffins, all the pancakes, the dinner rolls, the sandwiches, everything was made from freshly milled flour. And I knew it was the bread. And so as I saw these changes, drastic changes in my health, I began to study. I'm like, what? Why would it change my sinus congestion? What
Mhm.
does that have to do with
Yes.
the fiber, cleaning you up, eliminating constipation, having
Mhm.
your bowels eliminate the trash every
Mhm.
day? A lot of people don't make that connection. Your body's response to toxins and trash overload is you make mucus.
And
It's
it
a response.
reduces inflammation when you get rid of it.
Yes. So it's just so, have you ever wondered why you get a snotty nose when you get a cold? Well, it's because your body's trying to get rid of either the organism or the toxins or whatever. Well, with my trash being taken out every day, I no longer had this overload of toxin response and mucus and sinus congestion. And
Mhm.
again, I can say I've not had an antihistamine or a decongestant of any kind since 1991. Even if I do get a cold, I blow my nose and I can breathe. It just has never affected me. And all of my children, my 2 youngest children were conceived and born after bread. They've never had an antihistamine or decongestant a day in their life. And that's pretty amazing considering that children and adults are
Oh, it's so
living
common now.
on, yeah.
So common. So, so,
So
so common.
yeah, so many things that, and so I became excited, started sharing the bread with other people and baking bread for other people, taking bread to every function, every potluck, we went to.
Uh-huh.
And I'd send rolls home with everybody. And the next thing I know, people are coming to me going, my bowels move when I eat this bread, or I feel I have energy, or whatever, or I stay full. It's so satisfying. Would you teach me how to make bread? Where can I get a grain
Mhm.
mill? And
Mhm.
so, and then of course, their testimonies led me to study. And the one that pushed me over the edge was a lady called me early one morning and she said, "It's the bread. It's got to be the bread." That was she didn't tell me who she was. And I said, "Hello, what's going on?" And she said, "My cholesterol dropped 85 points in a month, and the only thing I changed was your bread." And she said, this was the funny thing. She really, and I was making it for her. She was an older lady. Well, she told all of her friends. The next thing I know, all of her friends are calling me to make bread. And I was honestly, we live in a tiny home, a wall unit, single oven kitchen, and you know, I was making bread all day for people to come and buy my bread, trying to make bread for my family,
Yeah.
homeschooling the kids.
It's a
And
lot.
I just got weary. I got very,
Yeah.
very weary. And I know with everything in me that God put these words in my mouth. And looking back now, they were pretty prophetic. But I'll never forget, I met my husband in the driveway one day in 1992 as he came home from work. And I just met him and we sat down under the carport and I said, "I don't think I'm supposed to make bread for the world. I think I'm supposed to teach the world to make bread for themselves." My world at that point was four. Four people had asked me would I
Mhm.
teach them how to make bread. And now, 35 years later, here we are.
You are teaching the world to make bread.
Yes, and I just look back and I'm like, Lord, I had no idea what I was saying, but he knew. He put those
Mhm.
words there.
Yeah.
And then over these years, these 30 plus years, we have seen thousands of people just like you say this bread, just like that lady. It's the bread.
Mhm.
It has to be the bread. She knew it was the bread because multiple medications, multiple doctors, nothing had lowered her cholesterol.
Mhm.
And blood cholesterol too high levels is a
Yeah.
sign of a significant health issue. Cholesterol is a needed nutrient. So I want to clarify that because people don't understand, but you
Mhm.
got to get it out of your blood vessels and to your
Mhm.
cells where it's needed. And every nutrient to metabolize cholesterol and break down those fats so they can get to your cells and be used is in bread, is in real whole grains, inositol, choline, lecithin, vitamin B6, and vitamin E. And all of that was stripped away when they started taking the bran and germ out of the bread. And
All
cholesterol,
the nutrients.
all the nutrients are virtually missing. So that sent me on a path. It's so funny. I am probably more passionate today than if that's possible, but it is than I was 35 years ago when I started, because when I hear testimonies, I'm
Mhm.
like, how is this possible? And I mean, even yesterday, I spent all day reading some scientific studies on bread and
Mhm.
different nutrients. And I'm like, I'm so excited, And
Mhm.
so it's just amazing. I've never seen one food bring such immediate, noticeable
Mhm.
health benefits, and I hear it all the time now. And it makes me love bread more and more and more and more. It's delicious. And what could be better than a piece of warm bread slathered in butter or
Butter.
dipped in olive oil? It
Yeah.
Your house smells wonderful, and
Mhm.
it's just so satisfying, not just to eat it. And that's another thing I noticed with the 5 children, then, like I said, going on number
Mhm.
6, number 7, um and then adopting 2 older boys. But people used to say to me, "Oh my gosh, you make all your own bread." And well, let me back up and tell you this. This was so funny when I first started. I'd take bread or coffee cake or muffins or whatever places everywhere I went. And this was when I first started. It wasn't as well known now as it
Oh,
is now.
you've been the pioneer for making it well known. So, yes, I
Yes.
know exactly what you're talking
Yeah.
about. Nobody was milling their flour back then.
No.
It was a
No.
dead art. Everybody was buying
Yeah.
flour conveniently off the store
Yes.
shelves.
Yeah, if they were even doing that.
Yeah.
By that point, people were just buying muffins already made.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
would take things places and people go, "Oh my gosh, these are delicious. Can I have your recipe?" And I would go, "Well, sure, you can have my recipe, but I have to tell you that I mill my own flour to make it." And they would look at me like I had, "What planet
Uh-huh.
are you from?" But it was
Yeah.
so funny. They would always ask me 2 questions. First question would be, "You do what?" That would be the first. And I go,
Yep.
"I mill my own flour." The next one puzzled me so much. They would say, "Where do you live?" And I think they were picturing a barn with the
Oh,
ox,
for sure.
treading
And you
around,
just
or
grinding it
yeah,
yourself. Yep.
or something. They didn't imagine, I've got a little, let's see, it's on this side. The mill
Mhm.
here sits on my counter and it grinds as much as I
Same.
need, really,
People
really
are doing
fast.
the same to me.
Yeah.
You mill your own flour. What
What?
are you talking about?
Yeah.
This episode of The Freak Show is brought to you by the Freak app, your pocket best friend for calibrating your mind and shifting your mindset. If you are ready to transform the way you think about yourself and your life, then you are definitely going to want to get your hands on the Freak app. It combines uplifting audio messages with specific frequencies designed to reprogram your mindset and transform your thoughts. With our custom calibrations, that's what we call these audio messages, you'll discover how healing your thoughts can reshape your life for the better. Whether you're seeking stress relief, motivation, or emotional healing, or any array of high frequency emotional states, the Freak app offers tailored support organized by frequency and by activity. By frequency, for instance, we have joy, abundance, serenity, self-love, self-worth. By activity, we have walking, cooking, cleaning, legs up the wall, cold plunging, and about 20 other different categories. This app is not just about helping you to feel good. It's about empowering you to live at the highest frequency daily. I created it because I wanted something that would help me shift my mindset easily and quickly whenever I need it. The empowering audio messages are amazing, if I say so myself. But what really takes them to the next level is the frequency chosen for each message. Our bodies are made primarily of water, and frequency affects water, literally. And so when you listen to these messages, not only is it helping you reprogram your thoughts by bringing awareness to them, it's also shifting the frequency in your physical being. We also have incredible plans for the Freak app. We want to do a sleep series so you can listen to frequency while you sleep and sleep deeper and better. We want to do a breathwork series where we bring in breathwork and teach you how to do breathwork combined with frequency. We want to do a series for children, helping them understand and deal with their emotions. So we have a bunch of calibrations already in the app, but our plans for expansion are enormous. We have a 5-day free trial. You can get it anywhere apps are sold, whether that's on the Apple App Store or Android. It's available everywhere. For a very easy way to download it, go to thefreakapp.com and there are links right in there. And that's THEFREQAPP.com, thefreakapp.com. And you can get all of the information there. Sam and I have put our hearts and souls into this app. We cannot wait for you to get your ears and eyes on it and give us all of your feedback. Thank you, thank you, thank you in advance for trying it out. And we hope it will be as transformative for you as it has been for us. Live on purpose and live on frequency.
So, it was just funny, when I first started, but people love the bread. Whole wheat flour gets a bad rap, but people love it. And I love sharing it because when
It's
people taste it, they can't believe it.
there. We're comparing though, when people talk about whole wheat bread, normally they're thinking about the whole wheat bread
Yep.
off of a store shelf. That is like comparing a chocolate bar to an apple. It's a totally different comparison.
Yeah.
Not only the nutrient profile, but
Yeah.
the flavor.
Yeah.
So
Great. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of things to share
Yeah.
with you based
Okay.
on listening to your podcast, based on deep diving into your bread class on YouTube. You
Yeah.
guys, listeners, look her up on YouTube. I took your bread class. I want to say it's an hour and a
Yeah.
half, where you go through the history of flour and all of the nutrient density. It is a
It is.
master class in why whole grains are so important. But two things came to mind. You mentioned this. I don't know if you mentioned it in your bread class or in one of your podcast episodes, because I've binged a bunch of your podcast
Where
episodes too.
did I
But
hear that? Yeah.
you said your first babies, I don't remember if it was 4 or 5 before you discovered the bread,
Hmm.
you gave birth, and their necks were like a baby neck, just not very strong.
Yeah.
And I took note of that. And after I gave birth to my second boy, I didn't know about
The
freshly
bread
milled
before.
flour
Hmm?
with my first son, Roman. But after I gave birth to Ephraim, he came out and could hold his head
His,
up.
yes.
It
Yes.
was wild. I mean,
Yes.
everybody was commenting, like, how is this baby so strong? And I was like, it's the bread.
Is yes.
Another story, this is a funny one too. I have a manicurist that I absolutely adore. And after a few months on the bread, she saw me before I ate the bread.
Yeah.
And then a few months after on the bread, she was taking off my nail polish and she was like, it
What?
looks like you have a French manicure. And I was
Yeah.
like, I
No.
don't. I
Yeah.
was like, it's the bread.
It's the
My
bread.
nails, the
Yeah.
whites of my nails were so prominent and so strong. It was like these nutrients were infiltrating every cell of my body.
Every cell of your body. Yeah.
Then, third story is I have Hashimoto's, and I know you have publicly shared that you have Hashimoto's. And as many women know, when you get pregnant, your thyroid is taxed
Yes.
pretty
Hmm.
greatly, right? And so during my pregnancy, I was constantly checking my thyroid. And for the first trimester of my pregnancy, it was a little shaky there. Um, and so I was doing several different things to try and get my numbers in a really comfortable spot. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't
Yeah.
ideal. And we can go into this too, but I was introduced to you about mid pregnancy.
Yeah.
And you started talking about Hashimoto's and how the freshly milled bread was helping you.
Yes.
And in the back of my mind, I was like, this resonates not only with the way that I feel, but biblically it resonates
Yeah.
too, because God speaks about bread over and over in the Bible, which I want you to touch on too.
Yeah.
But I thought, if if the Bible talks about bread this way, how could it possibly be bad for me? And
Yes.
so I bought the mill, I started making my own bread, and I started trusting the Holy Spirit about what this would do for my body, all the while undoing the narrative of you have Hashimoto's, you can never eat gluten
Right.
again.
Right.
Gluten is bad, 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 bad. So I was undoing this very, very toxic narrative, right? And I got my blood tested. Now, mind you, and I want to be totally honest about this, I had to up my medication a little bit
Sure.
during
Yeah.
pregnancy, but still, compared to many Hashimoto's patients, I don't take a lot of medication at all.
Right.
But after starting the freshly milled flour, my TSH went to one.
That's amazing.
One
Yeah.
while pregnant in my third trimester, when your body is taxed to the max,
Yep.
my
Yep.
TSH went down.
That is so great
And
to
so,
hear.
thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much for sharing the biblical principles behind it because that is so powerful.
Yes.
Sharing the nutrient information behind it because it is so convincing and incredible, and sharing your passion because it truly, Sue, changed my life and changed my family's life because
Yeah.
now my boys are growing up on real
Real food.
bread.
Yes. Yeah. That's amazing.
Isn't it?
It
Isn't it?
is. It
It
is.
just it blows my mind. So,
So, yeah.
question for you. How much of this bread do you think we should be eating a day to experience the benefits?
Well, I went all in, and
Yeah.
my short answer is, Jesus compared himself to bread. How much Jesus do you need? Every day, every way, every meal, all the time. And so I don't think about it like that. I used to actually even get frustrated. I was like, we're so medicine and dosage oriented, But
So,
I
so
interviewed
much.
someone one day, and she goes, "Oh no, I take my bread like I would take medicine. I don't miss a dose." So that's enough. I've learned to appreciate that way of
I
looking at it.
remember
But
that podcast episode. I listened to
yeah,
it.
yes. So for me, it's like, I mean, this morning I had an egg and a piece of toast for breakfast. Lunch might
Mm,
be a sandwich or a muffin. When my kids were growing up, it was pancakes or coffee cake. We always had some type of bread every meal.
mm,
Lunch might have been a muffin and some yogurt or fruit, fresh fruit, or it might have been a sandwich. So that was two pieces of bread per child.
mhm,
Dinner might be, and I like to clarify when I say bread, anything from a seed, a grain or a bean.
Hmm.
So we might have a pot of brown rice and black eyed peas with some chicken or, potatoes or whatever.
Hmm.
We're always going to have roll, cornbread, something,
Hmm.
Mexican night's going to be a freshly ground whole grain tortilla,
Hmm.
So we were eating probably 4 to 6 to maybe even 8 or 9 servings of bread a day. We were
Wow.
eating it just every
All the
meal.
time.
Like, yeah, I wasn't thinking, oh, I need to go eat my bread. It was just, here's bread. And
I want to go eat more because I eat it at least once a day,
yeah,
sometimes twice,
yeah.
but I think I need to up that.
Yeah, and that's what I've done some podcasts with some folks that in fact one gentleman in particular, he said, "I listened to your podcast about you saying you eat it every day, every way, every meal." He goes, "And I was just eating once, my piece of toast in the
Mhm.
morning." He goes, "I upped it and he saw significant changes in his blood sugar, I think his cholesterol. I can't remember now all the things that he saw, but I hear this a lot. What I hear is when the people that share with me the most significant changes in their
Mm.
health, it's they're eating it every
Regularly.
meal. It's not
Yeah.
just, oh, I've eaten my bread today. And I'll never forget years ago, a a sweet lady asked me one time, she goes, I'm just not seeing the health benefits that you're seeing. I'm like, are you eating the bread? And she goes, well, yeah, I eat my muffin in the morning. And I'm like, oh,
Not
but
enough.
but also what can affect it too. She worked outside the home, so she would eat her muffin in the morning, but then throughout the day she might be having a hamburger with white flour
Oh, yeah.
or
So it's
bread at
counteracting
a
some of those
meal or
benefits.
yeah,
But
or
that
white rice or
flour is so gluey.
yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
when I
Yeah.
think about it like that, I'm like, it clogs your system,
Yes.
whereas
Yes.
real bread unclogs the
It
system.
it does. And people don't, I see a lot of times people say, am I undoing, what I'm doing by eating white flour? And I'm like, well, it depends, it's
Hmm.
occasionally maybe, I mean, I avoid it a lot. I'm
Well,
not going to say I never eat it, but not in my home, but maybe out at a party I might have, but usually I can avoid
I
it.
don't feel good after I have it.
No, and that's the
Sometimes I get
thing.
a headache.
Yeah, like church will have pizza or something. I'll eat a
Hmm.
piece of pizza that I'll come home and I'm like, oh, that wasn't smart. And the next morning I just don't feel well. So
Hmm.
you'll start noticing. So I think bread was intended to be the staff of life. It's the most nutrient dense food that God has given us. Why would we not make it the main part of our meal? In fact, I tell people
Mm.
my menu planning kind of goes around what kind of bread I want. If I want
I love
biscuits,
it.
I might have country
I
fried
love it.
steak. If I want, tortilla Mexican, or if I want tortilla, if I want cornbread, then I'm probably going to have potato soup or vegetable soup. It's
Mm.
just funny. And the other night, we were having soup for dinner, and I was like, I really want cornbread, but I didn't want to take the time, the 35, 45 minutes for
Yeah.
corn to make. So I
Yeah.
just took and milled corn flour and made my regular pancake recipe and just cooked it like pancakes.
Oh, that sounds
Oh,
amazing.
it was delicious. It was very, very delicious. And I'm like, oh, this and it was kind of fried and crispy, around the edge. And I'm like, I
That's a
might even
perfect
like this.
dipper.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, that's the thing. I think grains should be the main part of our diet, the main focus, and,
Mhm.
and bread. I I've seen it too many times. The more you eat, I think the more benefits, the more nutrients you're getting. I
Mhm.
mean, when I began to study all this, I learned that of the 44, 46 essential nutrients that are needed by your body for life and health, there's only four basic ones missing in wheat, and some of the other grains supply those. So vitamin A is not, it's not missing, but it's kind of deficient. It's not a great food
Sure.
source of vitamin A. Vitamin C, vitamin A and C. So where are you going to get that? Put your fruits and vegetables in there. Vitamin
Absolutely.
D comes from the sunshine
Fun.
for the most part, and so get outside. And then B12 is not really in any plant
That's more
source.
dairy and meat, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but look at what's there. Oh my
Almost
goodness.
everything.
Almost everything. So, yeah. So it's the most nutrient dense food group that God has given us. And then not to mention loaded with fiber, loaded with enzymes, loaded with protein. That's another thing people think carbs, 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 but they don't
Not this
realize
bread.
that One slice of our bread, we had it tested, 5 grams of protein in one slice. And here's the most exciting part: 100% of your vitamin E need for the day. If you go by the minimum daily requirements, which I think
Sure.
those are a little low, but
I do
nonetheless,
too.
if
Yep.
we look at that, one slice, grains, wheat in particular, the most prevalent food source of vitamin E that we have,
And
if it's freshly milled. And you were talking about your kids' necks, the strength in the necks. The reason I knew that and made that connection was because in all my years of studying, even after graduating college, I read the works of Adele Davis. She was a prominent biochemist in the late 70s. She had a whole chapter on vitamin E. And one of the things that caught my attention is she said American babies are born with wobbly necks because they don't get enough vitamin E to give them the muscle strength. So, didn't think that much about it at the time until my sixth child was born, that I conceived and
hmm
bore after
hmm
bread. I was already doing the bread the whole time that she was born. I mean, the whole time she was in the womb. And at 4 days old, my husband was reclined slightly, had her laying on his chest, and I saw her crawl up his chest, 4 days old. My seventh child
It's
was
wild.
my seventh child, and she was a stocky little one, very muscular.
hmm
And so I thought, well, it's just the way she's built, it's
hmm
just her genetics. My seventh child, not built at all like her, but when she was born, she had swallowed a little bit of meconium.
mm
And so they're suctioning her out. She's screaming and screaming and screaming. So they wrap her up and they lay her on my chest. Well, they're still working with me, and after the delivery, and the midwife says to me something, and I answered her. Well, they had laid her, my little seventh child, Olivia, screaming, screaming on my chest. She was kind of face down, and I'm reclined. I
hmm
answer the midwife. As soon as I spoke,
Yeah.
my little one quit crying. She lifted her head from a rolled down position and turned it up and looked at me. Less than 10 minutes old. And from the very beginning, she never had that wobbly neck. So I wanted to clarify that because people are probably going, y'all are crazy, wobbly necks. But I've heard it multiple times. People
It's
notice it.
it's
And
so true.
and I knew it was the bread because the most nutrient dense food to give us vitamin E is in the bread. And so that was funny that you mentioned that. Also,
Well,
my nails, I never could grow nails growing up, and the
yeah.
next thing I know, I have nails. So
It's incredible.
yeah.
We go to a holistic pediatrician and I took my 6-month-old in for a checkup. And my pediatrician looked at me and he said, in my 15 years of practicing, I have never seen a baby this strong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Ephraim was holding his, like gripping his hands and allowing
Yeah.
him to pull him to standing
Yeah.
at 5.5 months old. But
Yeah.
it's
It
astounding. And he does have
yes.
good genetic structure. My husband is very strong, but
Yes.
there's something about this bread that
It's
changes things on a molecular level.
yeah.
I want to speak to this because I'm sure there are some female listeners that are like, if I eat this bread, am I going to get fat? What's going to happen? And I want to mention a couple of things. When I was pregnant in my third trimester and I started eating this bread regularly, the inflammation in my face went
Mm-hmm.
down and I noticeably looked thinner while pregnant. I
Wow, that's
I
amazing.
mean, make that make sense, right? But it's
Yeah.
the fiber content. And when you talk about vitamin E is essential for all kinds of
Every
bodily
cell,
functions, right? But
every
it's
cell in your
also
body.
great for our skin and
Yes.
makes us look youthful.
Yes. Yes.
So if you want to, I'm not saying like eating bread will make you thin, but what I have noticed is it has not caused me to gain weight.
Right. Right.
And I feel like the clarity of my skin is better.
Yes, I agree. I mean, you have beautiful skin indeed.
Thank you.
But and every now and then I'll hear people say, "Oh, I've started doing this and now I've gained weight."
Mm,
More people tell me, I just had someone the other day. My wife lost 37 pounds in the last 2 years of doing the bread.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we hear more, or it didn't make
Yes.
me gain weight at all. Every
Mm-hmm.
now and then, and there's a lot of issues with weight. I'm a little heavier than I'd
Sure.
like to be, and I can breathe and gain 5 pounds.
I just had a baby. I get it. I'm
Yeah,
six
yeah,
months in
yeah.
and I'm still not back to
Well,
where I want to
yeah,
be,
I'm
but
about to be 71. So I just am
it's
like,
amazing.
metabolism has a lot to do with it. I never
Sure.
really had issues until I turned 60, and then it was just like, okay. So anyway, but it certainly um it fills you up. And I think growing up, my children were very thin and they ate a lot. We did
Uh-huh.
not skimp at meals, they ate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing I will say, I think I was about to say this when I went off on another tangent, but people used to say to me, gosh, you must spend all your time in the kitchen cooking food and making bread. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what? I actually spend less time. Or there's less commotion going on in my kitchen after bread because my kids would eat breakfast. And before bread, they would eat breakfast. The next thing I know, they're in there looking for a snack, an apple or something, in the kitchen, the teenagers especially. After bread, we would eat breakfast, and then no one would think about eating till and we ate early, 7:30, 8
Mm-hmm.
o'clock. No one would think about eating until 2. Everybody was
My
full.
son is the same
Yeah,
way. I
you're
have to
full and you're
remind him
satisfied.
to eat. I'm like, "Are
Yeah.
you hungry? You just turned 4. You're little. You should be eating all the time." And
Yeah.
he's not. He
No.
wants his avocado toast when he wakes up,
Yeah.
and then he's like good for a long
A
time.
long time. And that's what I noticed too with my babies, my sixth and seventh child after bread. Once they started eating the bread, they were satisfied. They would go 4 and 5 and 6 hours, because they would eat and they never snacked. I never took goldfish. I never took
Mm-mm.
Cheerios. I never took
Nope.
anything
I
because they
don't
didn't
either.
snack. And so that's something that's so important that people don't realize real bread because of the fiber and the nutrients. The fiber fills you up, the nutrients satisfy you. And I think a
Mhm.
lot of people don't realize why we crave food is because we're missing a nutrient that our body needs,
Yes.
but the bread is supplying most everything, most
Hmm.
everything. And so eat some meat, eat some fruits and vegetables, get out in the
And eat
sunshine, drink some real
bread.
milk, eat real bread. Yeah.
Eat real
So
bread.
that's what I noticed. So I just want to encourage people to not buy into that lie because it is a lie of the enemy or whoever you want to say.
I think it's
Bread,
a lie of the enemy. I
the
totally
bread in the
agree.
store makes you fat. Because think of the bread, not just the loaves of bread, but the Twinkies, the donuts, the cinnamon rolls, the muffins. They're
Hmm.
not satisfying and they're heavily
No.
sugared. There's no fiber there. So you can eat 2 or 3 or 4 or 5.
And you're still not, yeah, you're not
And yeah,
satiated.
no, not at all. I'll never forget this lady called one time and she goes, I'm going to get so fat on this bread. She had come and that's when we did have a bakery at one time and she had bought a loaf of our cinnamon raisin bread. And she
Oh.
said, I ate 5 pieces of bread on the way home, half the loaf. And I said, and she goes, I'm going to get so fat. And I'm like, well, let me ask you a question. Did you eat dinner? And she goes, no, I was so full from the bread. And I'm like, bingo. I bet you those 5 slices of bread had more nutrition, more fiber, less calories than a full meal that you would have eaten. You were satisfied and you aren't going to overeat. And like I said, I didn't crave sugary things. My kids didn't. You'll find you don't snack. It's just satisfying. And yeah. So
Well, and what you just said reminded me, and it's going to be a little hard for me to articulate because it's so deep, but Jesus satisfies. And
yes,
he created bread and he calls
yes,
himself the bread of life. So
yes,
that correlation between that total satisfaction from
yeah,
eating this real nutrient dense bread reminds me of
yeah,
the beauty of being in relationship with Jesus Christ and how
absolutely.
satisfying,
He is.
wholly satisfying that is.
Yes, absolutely. That's like John 6:35. He says, I am the real bread of life. He who comes to me shall be satisfied. And they knew exactly what he was talking about. They knew that the bread they were eating satisfied. They could live on it. They knew
Mm-hmm.
that. And it's just so powerful, when you see God gave us grains, the most nutrient dense food he's given us. Grains are storable. So they don't have to be radiated to be stored. They're not picked early and then ripened in a truck and
Mm-hmm.
sprayed with chemicals and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're they're perfectly storable. They store all their nutritional value, but only when they're freshly milled do they retain all of that nutritional value. Do we get all of that from them? And
Mm-hmm.
you can trace the health decline of America when white bread and white flour came on the scene in the late 1800s. They realized that to keep flours from spoiling, which most of us don't realize, real flour spoils because it has fats and oils in the grain, in the germ. And to keep flour from spoiling, they invented mills that would crush the grain, mill the flour, sift the bran and germ away,
Mm-hmm.
leaving us only protein and starch, which is what white flour is, the endosperm. And when that happened, diseases became epidemic at the time. And beriberi, which is a nervous disorder, it's a B1, vitamin B1 deficiency. Pellagra is GI disturbances, skin issues. You talked about your skin, mental insanity, mental issues, and anemia became epidemic. No cases of beriberi had been seen, and now all of a sudden they're seeing these 30,000 cases of beriberi in the very first year that it was diagnosed. They traced it to the missing B vitamins and iron when they took the bran and germ out of the flour. They urged the millers to put it back in. When they finally figured it out, the millers are going, no, can't happen. We're selling the bran and germ to the cattle feed industry.
Mm-hmm.
We're not willing to give up that very
That
lucrative
extra.
market.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this was very interesting because this was all happening by like 1902, I think was the first case of pellagra, 30,000 cases. And that's interesting. I'm from Georgia, and the first
Mm-hmm.
case was diagnosed in Atlanta, Georgia. So this was
Mm-hmm.
significant. We're not talking about a case here, a case there,
Mm-hmm.
and then anemia, they hadn't seen it. So this is all happening in the early 1900s. And I just read this in the last couple of weeks. You know what instigated the government to step in and mandate that the flour be enriched? It wasn't just that the normal people were seeing all these diseases, because it didn't happen until 1941. The government stepped in and said, you got to do something, because they were observing the nutritional deficiencies of all the military recruits that they were about to send to war. So when they really
I just
started
got
looking at it,
full body chills.
me too, because I had always read it was mandated in 1948, but it was really mandated in 1941. And interestingly enough, along that same note, other countries like England, because supply lines were cut off and they
Yeah.
couldn't get grain in, they started mandating that you couldn't sift the bran and germ away, because when you take the bran and germ out, you lose about 25% of the flour.
A
So
huge
100 pounds.
amount.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
huge amount. So they said, you can't, we can't give up, we can't throw away that much food. So the health of the people drastically increased. Diabetes went down, chronic, issues during wartime, because they went back to eating the bran and germ, leaving it in the flour. It was actually outlawed. You cannot take it away. In America, of course, they just said, mandated that it be enriched. And here's what was so eye-opening to me as a food scientist, I'm in the
Mm-hmm.
food industry. When I read enriched, I thought we were making it better than it would have been had we not put these extra vitamins and
Mm-mm.
things in. That's not what I saw in
Yeah.
1991 when I read that information. It's a mere fraction of the
Mm-hmm.
nutrients that they put back in for the plethora that are lost when they
And
take
aren't
away
they
the bran and germ.
synthetic too?
Yes, synthetic. It was three
And
B
so,
vitamins and
yeah,
iron.
your
Yeah.
body doesn't absorb them the same way.
No,
It's
and
to
it would take 50 years, 1998, when they mandated that they put folic acid back in to stop because of the rising incidence of birth defects. But
hmm
now we're learning this synthetic folic acid is
It's
causing
not good.
all kinds of health issues.
It's not good.
Then we got to
Mm-mm.
bleach it. We can't have yellow flour. It's got to be whiter than white. A product called nitrogen trichloride was used for almost 40 years until they discovered it causes seizures in dogs and hyperactivity. So it might not be good for people. And so they banned its use, but then a chlorine derivative is still being used today, along with benzoyl peroxide that's been known to
Ugh.
cause liver
These sound
issues.
like cleaning supplies, not food ingredients.
I know. When I shared this, we've built now our ministry, Real Bread Outreach. We've built bakeries in Haiti and Tanzania and different places to help the food and starvation issue and improve the nutrition. And so we had been working with this one orphanage. And I had trained a group of young men to make bread, and they were getting up every morning, these high school boys making bread, 5, 6, 7, 800 rolls sometimes to feed the school children and the
How
orphanage.
beautiful.
It was wonderful. So they decided one of my trips there, they said, we want you to come and give the nutritional information to the nannies and the workers so they'll understand why we're doing this. So
Mm-hmm.
I did. I will never forget their face when I said two things. First, I shared that the Brannon germ is sifted away and it's sold to the cattle feed industry. And I said, and it's still being done today. And I said, I even saw a bag in your market of bran. And when I asked the young man that was taking me shopping what that was being sold for, and he goes, "Oh, well, that's pig feed." When I told them that, I
All
mean,
the
they went
nutrition
crazy.
is
They're
going
like,
to the
now
pigs.
we know why the pigs are fat and we're starving. But then when I got to the bleaching part, they all knew. They bleached their clothes. They bleached the kitchen. They bleached the floors to keep it clean. They're like, what? We never want to eat white bread again. This is terrible. We feel like we're eating those cleaning products.
It
So
is.
it's pretty crazy when you think about it. So yep, these synthetic vitamins, and supposedly they stopped beriberi and pellagra and anemia. But I always ask, pellagra, like I said, beriberi is neurological and nervous disorders.
Mm-hmm.
How many do we have in this country
It's
today?
chronic. Chronic.
Pellagra is known as the disease of the 4Ds. Dermatitis, so all kinds of skin issues.
Mm-hmm.
Dysentery, all kinds of GI disturbances and bowel issues. Mental issues, dementia. Isn't that interesting? Death is the last one. And I mean, the death rate in Georgia and South Carolina from pellagra was overwhelming. And the mental institutions, one article I read in the early days, it said the mental institutions in Georgia and South Carolina were literally overflowing. They did not have enough beds to house the patients dying of pellagra. How many nervous disorders do we have in our country today?
Oh,
Skin problems,
countless.
how, GI
Mystery
problems,
autoimmune disorders.
dementia, I mean, mental
And
insanity.
meanwhile,
Yeah,
so many people are saying, get off gluten, get off gluten, get off
I
gluten. But
know.
it's gluten is not the problem. It's the type of gluten.
Well, it's more the processing. So when they
Yes,
when they sift the
yes.
bran and germ away, the white flour portion is known as the endosperm. That is protein and starch.
Mm-hmm.
All gluten is, and this is what people need to know what gluten really is. So, in wheat, the wheat family of grains, there are two unique proteins that are found there, not in any other family of grains. It's called glutenin and gliadin.
Mm-hmm.
When wheat flour is hydrated, wet, so mix up some wheat flour with some water, form a dough, let it sit. When it's fully hydrated, those two unique proteins to the wheat family form this stretchy substance known as gluten. That's all gluten is. And it's important. And it's those two proteins that make the wheat family of grains the king of bread making because
Mm-hmm.
that's those stretchy strands of protein
Mm-hmm.
as the yeast, whether it's sourdough or commercial yeast, it doesn't matter. As it feeds on the carbohydrates in wheat, it produces carbon dioxide gas, and it's those stretchy strands of proteins that are able to trap that gas, and that's what enables the bread to rise. So gluten is not a bad guy. Gluten
No,
is what makes
it's a
bread
miracle.
bread. It's a miracle.
Yeah.
Now, here's the problem. When you take the bran and germ away, you're basically eating those gluten forming proteins and starch. God
Mm-hmm.
never intended us to eat it without the vitamins, without the minerals, without the fiber, without the enzymes. And the fiber is most important because that keeps the pipes clean. White
Mm-hmm.
flour, like we've talked about,
It's
that
like
has
glue.
those gluten forming proteins is constipating. And
Yeah.
so you're not moving your bowels. And if you don't get clean from, and have the scrubby sponge, I call it the scrubby sponge of the fiber
Yeah.
to clean the villi, then it's going to lay those down and then you're going to have all sorts of issues. Not
Mm.
to mention the fact this is something I've learned in the last 5 or 6 years. Well, I mean, I always knew it, but I really made the connection. Gluten is what? It's two proteins,
Mm-hmm.
okay? That's all it is. It's not something someone put in there. God put those in there
Yeah.
genetically. And
Yeah.
what determines the protein content in wheat is not so much the genetics, but rainfall during the growing season. So to say that wheat has been hybridized or genetically modified, it has not been genetically modified. It's been crossed with other
Mm-hmm.
wheat varieties. So that's hybridization, has not been bred to have a higher protein content, because what determines protein content more than anything is rainfall during the growing season. So
Wow.
your hard wheat, your yeast bread making wheat,
Yeah.
grows in those colder, drier climates in our
Yeah.
United States. Here in the South, where I'm from, we can't grow that wheat. Our wheat is called soft wheat because we have a higher rainfall and warmer climate. Our wheat is what's known as soft wheat or pastry flour. It's good for, guess what? What Southerners are known for: cakes,
Yeah.
pies, cookies, and what kind of bread?
Biscuits.
Biscuits. Biscuits.
Yeah.
Yes,
My
exactly.
husband's from Georgia and we lived in Georgia for 6 years.
Yeah.
So,
So,
yes.
and so that's what people have to understand. And what's really important too is, and I won't get too deep here, but it's important for people to understand proteins are digested. So carbohydrate digestion begins in your mouth. When you
Mhm.
eat food, chew it up, you have an enzyme called amylase. So the carbohydrates right away start getting broken down. Then you swallow that food. For all practical purposes, carbohydrate digestion stops because protein digestion begins. Protein digestive enzymes have to have an acid environment
Mm. Mm-hmm.
to work.
Mm-hmm.
So your stomach, God created us with these acid producing cells, mucus producing cells to protect our stomach lining from not getting eaten up by the acid, because it'll drop the pH down as low as 1, which is could eat a hole in this countertop.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So those protein digestive enzymes start working. The protein is digested, then it gets shunted over into the small intestines where it gets alkalized, then that our digestive juices, because the small intestine doesn't have that protection. Also, the digestive enzymes that then pick back up and start finishing the carbohydrate and the fat digestion, all of that, it takes a more alkaline environment. But here's the point I want to make and what people are not understanding. Do you know what one of the number one, after laxatives, then another number one prescribed drug or medication?
Antacids.
You got it.
Today's episode of The Freak Show is supported by Ancestral Supplements. With Ancestral Supplements, you can now add back the dense nutrition the human body craves to optimally support a vibrant life and experience improvements in energy, immunity, strength, gut and digestion, endurance, memory, vitality, sleep, and much, much more. One of the most dense sources of nutrition on the planet, their beef liver supplements aid the liver in optimizing the body's metabolic functions, helps to detoxify the body, and is integral to supporting a healthy immune system. If you don't know where to start with Ancestral Supplements, because they do have a large library of supplements, I would say start with the liver. I would also say they have a free consultation that you can take advantage of, and I would highly recommend that you do. I have emailed with them multiple times, and they have helped me tailor a supplement plan specific for my needs and health goals. Ancestral Supplements' ultra high quality liver formula is loaded with vitamins, minerals, proteins, and healthy fats that support collagen synthesis, think skin, hair, and connective tissues, immune health, and heart, brain, and liver health. Our early ancestors knew this, which is why their traditional diets included the frequent and nourishing consumption of this nutritional powerhouse. Just the liver supplement provides powerful energy, vibrant skin, fertility and fetal development, strong bones, brain power, robust immunity, strength and endurance, eye and vision health, methylation and detoxification. It's amazing, right? So amazing. Ancestral Supplements has generously offered our freak community 10% off of your first purchase with code BECKON10. Again, that's code BECKON10, BECKON 10 at ancestralsupplements.com for 10% off your first purchase. I know you are going to love this supplement company as much as Sam and I do. I have my mom on the supplements. I occasionally open the capsules and sneak some of the nutrition into my son's food. It is just next level supplementation. All right. Thank you. Enjoy. And now back to the show.
So we're alkalizing our stomach acid. What is that going to
We
do to
can't
our
break down our food.
what is that doing to our protein digestion? It's compromising it. So, yeah, you're having trouble digesting gluten. Maybe it's not the gluten, maybe it's the other
The acid.
issues.
Yeah.
And and the technical definition of an allergy, the nutritional definition of an allergy is an adverse reaction to a protein component in a food. Intolerances can be other components like a lactose intolerance or something like that. But a true allergy, they consider it a protein component that you can't break down. Isn't that interesting? So when I put that piece of the puzzle in there, I was like, this is interesting. Yeah. And all these people with acid reflux, it's not a too much acid issue. It's a too little acid issue. So now you're taking an antacid. Yeah, it might be.
It's making it worse.
Exactly, because you have a muscle. There's a flap that blocks the stomach acid from coming back up into your esophagus. Do you know what stimulates it to close? A very acid environment, a very low pH. So you are not correcting the problem. You're actually magnifying the problem. Yes, it may alkalize it enough that it doesn't burn when it comes up, but you haven't corrected the problem. We have so many people start drinking kefir, get some acid in there, get some digestive enzymes in there, and it ends that. But so it's really fascinating. And I had a lady write me that they found polyps in her stomach and her esophagus. She asked the doctor, and he goes, "Oh, that's a side effect of the antacids. Don't worry about it. It's okay." And she's like, "No,
No.
not okay."
No.
So, I'd love to read a quote if I can.
Of course.
This blew me away. And this is a well-known doctor, but I want to encourage people to think biblically and logically. Let's use our minds. So, here's his quote. This is what he says. Damage to the gastrointestinal tract from the overuse of antibiotics. My children only needed antibiotics 3 times in 25 years.
I have 9 children.
Yeah. Anti-inflammatory drugs like Advil or Aleve. How many people are living on that?
Chronic.
You ready? Acid blocking drugs like Prilosec and Nexium, combined with our low fiber, high sugar diet, leads to the development of celiac disease and gluten intolerance or sensitivity and the resultant inflammation. Well-known doctor says that. I totally agree. Here's the problem I have. Listen to his conclusion. That is why the elimination of gluten and food allergens or sensitivities can be a powerful way to prevent and reverse this and many other chronic diseases. Hold on. I did not hear gluten mentioned in the lineup of things that cause the problem. How about we introduce real bread, and then we don't need antibiotics, we don't need anti-inflammatory drugs, we don't need acid blocking drugs. We're eating a high fiber, low sugar diet. And then he goes on the next paragraph. The biggest problem is wheat.
No. Maybe
I
store-bought shelf wheat, but we aren't eating the store-bought shelf wheat. It's a totally different thing. Again, it's like chocolate bars and apples. You're not comparing the same thing.
It's like I actually came up with the analogy. It's like paper and a tree.
Yeah.
Would you say that this is a
Yes.
tree? No, you would not. Well, that stuff in the store is not wheat. And that's the problem. That stuff in the store is giving wheat a bad name and a bad reputation. And people, even educated health professionals, they're not differentiating. They're not
Mhm.
seeing the difference. They're saying
Mhm.
wheat is inflammatory. No, that stuff is. Wheat is not,
Mhm.
Wheat makes you fat. No, it doesn't. In
No.
fact, prior to the 1900s, the national average of wheat consumption per person was 235 pounds per person per year.
That is a lot of wheat.
Yes.
That is a lot
Today
of
it's
wheat.
and see people say, "Oh, the obesity and health has increased has as wheat consumption has increased." Wheat consumption is less than half now. You know what has changed? Prior to the 1900s, 90% of the flour produced in this
Mhm.
country was used at home.
Mhm.
Today it's less than 10%.
Mhm.
We're buying, buying.
I know we just inverted the food pyramid, but I
Uh,
feel like, and in some ways, I think that's
yes,
fabulous.
yes,
But where they're getting it wrong is the wheat,
yeah,
but at the same time, most of America is thinking of wheat as the stuff you buy in the grocery store.
yes,
We're
they are.
talking about a totally different animal, but we need to get you with RFK and give him some
Well,
education.
I'm hoping I'll
Oh,
get
if I
some
can help with
exposure.
that in any way, let me know. Well, I
Yeah,
want to be so respectful of your time.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
wrapping up on an hour. If you don't mind, I have two more things I want to
yep,
chat with you about real quick. I want to tell you again, I just want to sing your praises. You have inspired me so much and changed my life, changed my family's life because you helped me to trust bread again. And I've
yeah.
been making my bread now for almost a year.
That's
And
amazing.
last fall, I felt God whisper to me, 100 loaves. I want you to give away 100 loaves. And you are a huge part of that because you helped me understand all of this. And so I started a project called the 100 Loaves Project, where
Oh
I'm
my
giving
goodness.
away 100 loaves of bread. And that is in large part because of you. And I want you to know that.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Next thing is if I can help you in any way with your bread charities or any of those things, please let
Yeah.
me know. I am
Okay.
in because I'm all in on this bread.
That is so
Then,
amazing.
last thing is if people are overwhelmed at the thought of making their own bread, I understand now that it's not that time
Yeah.
consuming. You know, now I'm making more because I'm giving it away, but I
Yeah.
probably make fresh bread once or twice a week. And after a day, I
Yeah.
freeze it, put it in the freezer, and then put it in
Yeah.
my toaster oven and it tastes fresh. But for people who feel very intimidated by this
Yeah.
process, how would you encourage them to begin so it feels less overwhelming?
Well, the thing, for me, it wasn't overwhelming because I already cooked from scratch. So
Yeah.
just get the right tool. Buy a grain mill that's easy to use.
And you
I
have
love
them on your website.
Yes, we do. I love the Wonder Mill particularly because it's
Okay.
it's it's a no-brainer. Turn it on, pour the grain in, it comes out flour, and it makes flour fast. So you're
Mhm.
not, waiting for flour to be ground. So I love it. And then start simple. When I first started, I started with four basic recipes. You ready?
Mhm.
Pancakes. Stir up
Mhm.
with a wire whisk and a bowl. So, and then fry them up, just like the corn pancakes
Yeah.
I made the other night.
Very
They're ready,
basic.
five
Yeah.
minutes. Muffins, coffee cake. Those are quick breads. Those are stir up with a wire whisk in a bowl, baking powder, baking soda,
And
salt,
fun to make with kids. My
fun
son
to make. Yeah.
loves helping me with those.
Yes.
Loves.
Yes, mine did too, and my grandkids like it too. And so start there. And then I found a yeast bread recipe
Mhm.
and I that was what I did. And
Yeah.
everything was made with that one basic recipe. You don't need a lot of recipes. My muffin recipe, my son just taught a class in here today right before we started, and you should
Mhm.
see there's some lemon, raspberry, chocolate chip, there's some
Oh,
banana muffins, there's blueberry
yum.
muffins, all
I'm
from the same
salivating.
all from the same muffin recipe, just change it up. and
Mhm.
and like I said, the pancakes, normally we think
Mhm.
of them sweet. The other night I was like, why can't I just use corn flour and make corn pancakes, and they tasted just like cornbread. So get some basic recipes. I love my basic muffin, basic pancake, coffee cake. We have a little red book that was my beginning book. and then my big essential home ground flour book. Those are great starting places. And then the bread dough, yeast bread dough. I did not grow up learning to make yeast bread. So that was something I learned even before I milled. I started making yeast breads and then just use that dough. I make cinnamon rolls out of that same dough. I make
Mhm.
donuts out of that same dough, sandwich buns, hamburger buns, garlic rolls, make them savory, dip them
It's
in
so
butter. And
versatile.
it is.
Hmm.
And just start simple. And
Hmm.
people would ask me, "Do you have a rye bread recipe?" And I go, "Nope." "Do you have this?" "Nope, I have these four."
Hmm.
Now, as I've over the 30 something years, yes,
Yeah,
there's
you
there's a
grow
lot
with it.
more recipes. Grow
Of
with it.
course, you grow
But
with it. Yeah.
that's what I would encourage people. Start simple, get the right tools. If you're in and out of the house a lot, bread machines are a wonderful option. You
Hmm.
can dump the ingredients to the yeast bread in, come back to a baked, I mean, 5 minutes, dump it in, come back
Yeah.
to a baked loaf of bread. And the ones that we carry, the Zoharushi, you can even set it at night and wake up to hot bread in the morning, or set it in the morning before you walk out
I'm
the
gonna
door.
have
And
to invest in one of those because I do the
it's,
cast iron in my oven and I
yeah.
love it, but
Well,
it's a
and
you have to watch it a little closer.
yeah, it depends because now when my kids were all at home, I made 6 loaves of bread twice a week.
Ooh,
I had a big
ooh.
mixer that I love, the Ankeshrew mixer. So that was wonderful. But I'd take that, I'd make a big batch of dough. I'd take that dough, I'd make some loaves, some hamburger buns or dinner rolls, and then some cinnamon raisin bread or something,
Mhm.
all out of the same dough. I had 3 days, breakfast, lunch, and dinner type breads
Mhm.
ready, in a couple of hours.
Yeah, so you batched it. Hmm.
It's not a lot of hands on. Buy the right tools. I know it's an investment,
Hmm.
but I'm telling you,
It's an investment in your
three,
health, though.
2 doctor visits in 25 years, how much money has that saved me? No Advil or leave, no antibiotic. How much has that saved us? And just the way you feel,
Thousands
you
and
can't,
thousands and
you,
thousands of dollars.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's very difficult to put a price on it. So I know it's an investment. And hey, I started when I had 5 young children. So I feel you. I feel you. Some days yeast bread didn't happen. And
Yeah.
some days it was like, oh, we don't have any bread. Oops, we're making muffins for lunch. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't get bread made. Oh, we're having muffins for dinner. So
Hmm.
you can do it. And I'm just, and
And it,
boil grains and eat them. People have
hmm
forgotten that you can boil grains and,
hmm
you
and you can
know,
do that in a slow cooker too, can't you?
yes, you
Just leave it
can.
and forget it.
Yes. Yep.
Set it and
And
forget it.
grits and cream of wheat, those you can grind in a blender, coarse grind,
Mm.
the corn or wheat to make
Hmm.
cream of wheat. The mills that we love, the Wonder Mill, it makes flour, but
Hmm.
it makes it fast and it makes, 12 cups at a time if you want that, if you need that
That's
much. But
amazing.
I mean,
Hmm.
and you can have the flour milled before you get your other ingredients ready
Hmm.
almost. So
Oh,
it's
I do.
amazing.
I
Yeah,
totally do. And I've experimented with sourdough. I love sourdough,
I do
but
too.
you
Yeah.
know, the starter and stuff is a little bit more labor intensive. So when I
Yeah.
first started, I was just doing the yeast bread too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's so fast. It was
It
like
is.
it wasn't that big of a deal at all.
Yeah.
Do you recommend any kind of particular grain or just a whole grain? Because I use einkorn, I use hard
Yeah.
red, I use hard white, I use
Yeah.
spelt. I
Yeah.
I like having different
Diversity.
types.
Well,
Yeah.
and see, and that's what's so fun to me about this is the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
The flavor can change in a recipe. You can do the same basic bread dough with spelt, with einkorn, with kamut. You
Mhm.
don't need a kamut recipe. You don't need a spelt.
Mhm.
Just use it. Now it may take a little more flour, may take a little less,
Yeah.
whatever. So in the beginning, I started with hard red wheat and
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
that's all I knew. And
Yeah.
I started with hard red wheat. It was a year or so into it when hard white wheat has not been around that long. It came out
Mhm.
actually in the early 90s. So I was just getting
Oh, okay.
started when hard white wheat kind of came on the scene. So I enjoyed it for things like pizza dough and things like that. Getting started, einkorn, I love. Spelt is one of
Love
my favorites.
einkorn and spelt.
Kamut,
They're
but
my favorites.
little trickier to work with yeast
Definitely.
breads because it's a little lower protein, little weaker gluten structure. So for
Hmm.
someone just starting out, I'm going to say go with our basic getting started is hard red, hard white, and if you want cakes, cookies, biscuits, and pies, soft
Those are,
wheat.
yeah,
And those are
perfect
those
for
are my
those.
three staples. And
Okay.
then branch out. My favorite combination right now is hard red and kamut. It makes
Ooh.
the best bread, about 2 parts red and 1 part kamut.
Okay.
But I ran out of that. I have a mixture of that already made. And so the other day I was like, huh. So I did a cup of hard white wheat, a cup of kamut, and a cup of spelt, and just ground that, made great bread. So, and people are probably going, I don't even know what you're talking about. So just keep it simple, branch
Yeah.
out as you get your feet wet.
But
But
also, you're such a great resource because you've got the YouTube class, you've got multiple videos on
yeah,
YouTube, but you've got a whole class about the history of bread and
yes.
getting started, which I highly recommend.
Yep.
Your website has a bunch of resources, and
Yeah.
then your podcast is also so helpful. So I
Yeah.
think you take a lot of the intimidation out and you sell grain as well, right?
Yes, we're one of the largest grain suppliers. I don't know, I know in the Southeast we have over 150 co-ops, so that's
There's
something.
one in Phoenix where I live in Scottsdale, so I know you have
Yeah.
one here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So just look on our website. If you don't see one, you know, think about starting one or,
Yeah.
whatever. So we have them all over. So you can go to our website, breadbeckers.com. Our YouTube channel, we do have 2 videos I know of that are basic list of getting started items where I go over hard red wheat, hard white wheat. This is what you need for yeast bread, soft wheat, buckets. And we package our grain in buckets, which is a little different than a lot of suppliers in the
Hmm.
Southeast. Well, anywhere. The enemies of grain storage are moisture bugs, rodents. So when our grain comes in, we package it in 6-gallon food grade buckets with carbon dioxide gas, so
Hmm.
that we guarantee if you'll keep that bucket closed, it doesn't matter if you go in and out of it, but keep that lid on when you're not using it, and then it should be bug free and sustainable. You don't have to freeze it or anything like that. That's when you buy things in bags, but we don't sell in bags. And so we have all of that on our website. We also have a separate website for our co-op. So you can go breadbeckerscoop.com, see if there's a co-op near you. We deliver every 4 months to an area. It's no
Okay.
cost to join. You know that. Yeah. And there's no minimums or, anything like that. You're ordering and with a group. So you get a discount of volume and stuff like that. But so there's co-ops, there's the YouTube channel, my podcast, Sue's Healthy Minutes, so much information. Oh my gosh, this week's testimony, it's the bread story. It made me cry. You're going to just absolutely love it.
I will listen to that.
Yes, a mom with one little one with seizures and one born with brittle bone disease. It'll take your breath away. Her baby was in utero with 2 broken femurs, 30 bone breaks in her first 3 years of life,
Oh.
1 year of doing the bread, no bone breaks. I just got chills even sharing it. I choked up. You should see me when she started telling the story. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I'm crying here. But
The
just
goodness
30,
of God. God
30 bone
created
breaks.
these
Yes.
grains perfectly,
Yes.
created our bodies to
Yeah.
process these grains perfectly.
Perfectly.
And when you
Yep.
remove God from the equation, and
Yep.
when you remove real bread from the equation, you're missing out on basically
Yes.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's great. Real Bread Outreach is our ministry where we help people get grains, mills, whatever they need to start if they truly, truly can afford it. And we have some
Yeah.
questionnaires in place to see, because a lot of people will say they can't, but they can.
Yeah.
But some people can't.
Really
And
can't.
yes. And then we
Sure.
have, we've built a bakery in Haiti and Tanzania. We helped start one in Uganda. We helped a bread ministry in Israel. We've sent mills to
Oh, oh,
missionaries in Japan and the
you
Philippines. And so that's what I'm saying. When I
live and
said
feed the
I'm supposed to
world.
teach the world, I had no
Yeah.
idea. And I find bread scriptures all throughout. And John 6:35, of course, Jesus comparing himself to bread. Isaiah 55:2, why do you spend your money for that which is not bread? But I'm going to tell you the most powerful one that I think I found was Deuteronomy 24, verse 6. If you can imagine, I never would have thought a bread scripture would be there.
Yeah.
But That's the law. So you're kind of waiting
I
for the
know it's
laws.
yeah.
But he gives such practical laws about how to treat each other. And he has a law for borrowing and lending. In those days, if you borrowed something from somebody, you would leave them with a pledge, something of value that belonged to, of value to you, that you would
Mhm.
leave with him as a promise, as a pledge. I'm going to pay you back. I will return what I'm borrowing. You hold this as a pledge. God had a law for what you could not take as a pledge. And he said in Deuteronomy 24, verse 6, do not take a man's millstone as a pledge, for you would be taking his life. Wow.
That
God
brings tears to
equates.
my eyes.
It does me too. Every time I even share it to this day,
It,
and I remember where I was when I saw it. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is powerful. But that's exactly what we let happen in the early 1900s. They took
mhm.
our millstones out of our home because prior to them, people ground their own, either at home or the local miller, took it out of our home. And we've been losing our health and our life ever since. But
Mhm.
God is bringing us back to his
And
way of
Sue,
living and being and doing and bringing
oh,
bread back in the house.
he is using you so profoundly.
Ah,
You have inspired me immensely. When you agreed to come on the podcast, I told my husband and he was like, I know how
what?
excited you're going to be about this because you love her so much. Thank you for
You're so
being
welcome.
such a tool of the spirit and helping people to understand the beauty and importance of this bread and making it something that they can incorporate in their daily
Yes.
schedules, even with 9 children.
Make
You
it
can do it
easy.
with 9 children.
You can
I
do
can
it.
do it with two. My
Yeah.
best friend does it with four.
Yeah.
We got this.
You
We got
got it.
this.
You
Is
got it.
there anything else you want to say or anything else you want to share as we wrap up? I want to give the floor to you and just again, thank you immensely for your
Oh, you are
time.
so welcome. Well, I just was thinking, this is, I just want to encourage you, do it. Don't be intimidated. Don't hear what the world is telling you about bread because most of it is not correct.
Hmm.
And I've never seen one food bring such immediate, noticeable, drastic, and broad spectrum. Now, thousands testimonies. I mean, like this woman, her daughter's seizures stopped in the year that they've been doing the bread. Brittle bone disease, is it going to reverse it? No, but her child is growing and running, and they said she would never walk. So this is amazing. You just can't believe what it might do for your family. And I just can testify it changed my whole direction in my life, not just the health of our family, but what God has called us
Hmm.
to. And
Hmm.
I'm so thankful. I'm going to tear up a little bit
Hmm.
just to be able to speak into people's lives and hear testimonies like yours, of changed health. And it's very, very gratifying. And I'm
It's
honored and
so
humbled
profound.
to be able to be used by God in this way. So
Oh,
thank
and
you.
being
Thank you.
used, you are in the best way. It is my pleasure. I'm going to link everything for people so they
Okay.
know where to find you, where they can buy the grain, where they can get your book, etc. But
Thank
thank you so much.
you. You are very welcome. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Oh, it is my joy, truly. Thank you so much for listening to The Freak Show with Sam Thurmond and me, Jacqueline Steele Thurmond. We would love to connect with you via our website, beckonliving.com, and on social media.
You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Beck and Living, and you can join our email list to receive uplifting messages, podcast and business updates, and discounts on high-frequency products just for our freaky community.
Cheers to high frequency living.